reason I'm interviewing Mr. Bennett is because I have been concerned about Del Mar College for a great number of years. I can't believe it. I've been at Del Mar College as a faculty member for 25 years. I've seen it all over there, I thought, until recently. But I do want to go ahead and say that I'm interviewing Mr. Bennett on my behalf, under my freedom of speech, and that this has nothing to do with Del Mar College equipment, got nothing to do with facilities, got nothing to do with Del Mar College, period. I am a taxpayer. And I would like to say that yes, I'm a full professor of biology, essentially microbiology, and I can teach the chemistry at Del Mar College. And so I'm also the president of the Corpus Christi Taxpayers Association, and I'm the chairman of the Clean Economy Coalition. I've been sued by the city because I'm one of 5 people that opposed the tearing down of the Memorial Coliseum. So I think I'm a well-known entity around town, especially with the city real estate cartel downtown and the administration and so forth at Del Mar College. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Bennett and have him just update his qualifications to question anything that we find in the billings and the overall accounting of Del Mar College.
Thanks, Doctor. My name's Ed Bennett. I have an undergraduate BBA in accounting, a graduate MS accountancy. I passed the CPA exam just prior to getting my master's degree. I went to work for what is now a Big 4 CPA firm. At that time, it was actually a Big 8 CPA firm. I stayed there for a little over 3 years, worked my way up the corporate ladder in the accounting part through the controllership to become vice president of an oil field service company, and then later executive vice president of a distribution company. Those are both publicly traded companies. My specialty was publicly traded companies and SEC reporting. So that's my background. I've been doing accounting work for the better part of 35 years or so. And I do have to apologize. I'm a bit stunned today because I received a response to my PIA request. And just to give you a little background on that, Doctor, you sent an original PIA request in to get some documents related to bad debt expense when you and I were reviewing the budget a year ago, and we noticed that bad debt expense was increasing as enrollment was decreasing. We didn't understand that correlation. So you filed a PIA request, and we did get an awful lot of documents in response to that request. In fact, vertically stacked, they were about 5 foot tall.
Right.
But the main two, well, there were 3 documents in there.
Well, let me just interrupt you for a minute, Ed. The reason that it piqued my curiosity and therefore yours, since we had met and I knew what your background was our VP of Business, Finance, Administrative Services, underwater basket weaving and everything at one time. Now it's been designated as the Chief Financial Officer. But that individual made a statement at a Board of Regents meetings, or it was a workshop, I stand corrected, that they were doing everything they could to recoup and to obtain bad debt monies. Okay.
And that's their fiduciary responsibility.
And collection of those of the debts.
They're responsible for that. They have a fiduciary responsibility, and that is part of their job.
Okay, so that piqued my interest, and then in August of 2013, I went ahead after that meeting that I think both of us attended, and I said, okay, let me see how sincere these people are about collecting those bad debts from students mainly. Okay. We had no idea that they had a whole bunch of other third-party bad debts that were being ready to be written off. So then I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and actually the documents we found, the 3 significant ones, were a memo from Dr. Sloan to Dr. Escamilla saying, we need to write these bad debts off, we made all collection efforts, or something to that effect. And included as support for that memo was $185,000 of third-party bad debt. And in the third-party bad debt, it listed them individually. A couple of them really stuck out. Texas A&M Kingsville, over $54,000. Council of Government, $89,000. These are huge amounts. So we try to do more investigating. I actually sent a PIA request to Kingsville, Texas A&M Kingsville. They said they didn't know a thing about it, and just to clarify, I put a copy of that journal entry with it, so there wouldn't be any confusion. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And then I filed another PIA request to expand our initial one and get the detailed general ledger for all the bad debt write-offs for the last 10 years. Now, that's the third-party bad debt. We don't care about the students, although we got about 5 foot of student bad debt. Pretty interesting. There was no redactions at all in that. But we're interested. We're trying to focus on the third-party bad debt. And all I want was a detailed general ledger. So I sent in the PIA request, and honestly, I'm still a bit stunned. About 24 hours ago, I got a response from the Tammy McDonald, the Executive Director of Human Resource Administration, Del Mar College PIA officer. And I'll tell you, I know general ledgers. I took my request and ran it on a client's general ledger, and they have 42,000 active accounts. So it's a massive general ledger. It took me 17 minutes to produce that data. 17 minutes. Well, Tammy has sent me a letter, and it's going to take them a little while longer. In fact, it's going to take over 1.1 million hours to produce these printouts. 1.1 million hours. 500 plus man years to produce a general ledger detail.
And I'm stunned. I really am. And at first we looked at that amount, and I said, well, the total amount of money that they want to charge Mr. Bennett to get what he asked for as a 30-year plus veteran CPA accountant, it astounded me. It's just under $27 million is what they said that it was going to cost.
It's actually only $26,745,116.40.
So they got it down to the penny.
Well, to the dime. I mean, obviously, this is not a rough estimate. They have put some work in here. Over 1 million hours, and over 1 million hours to manually redact exception information. I asked for third-party write-offs.
Right.
What are we redacting?
Well, let me ask you this, and mixed into that fray, if there are documents that do not need to be redacted, are they willing to give you that in a timely manner?
Doctor,
Yes or no?
doctor, they want $27 million from me to do something that took me 17 minutes to do.
Right.
I don't think they're trying to be reasonable.
No,
Quite honestly.
no, I don't think so. Now, let me interject this. A while back, there was an individual who was a professor at Del Mar College. He was a retired Army colonel, Special Forces, Airborne Ranger, and all that good stuff. And he wound up as a longtime chair of the Department of Social Sciences. Okay? Now, he requested some stuff a while back, and in order to frighten him off, they said, well, it's going to cost you $6,900 and some odd dollars. Well, I was totally surprised when that man went over there and wrote him a check for the amount of money that they said they did. And then they said, oh, well, that was just an estimate, and that wasn't the real cost of this. And when the bottom line came around, it didn't cost him a dime to get that information. So I've seen this happen, this intimidation at Del Mar College before, and I'm asking you, as a potential Board of Regents member, would you tolerate the administration of Del Mar College conducting such strategies?
My feeling on that is that these are public employees. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the public.
Right.
I asked for this information as a member of the public. I'm a taxpayer.
Right.
That information belongs to us, as long as it's not confidential. Third party, I'm not sure what you're going to redact from third party. I mean, Texas A&M Kingsville probably doesn't have any third party or any confidential information on file, since they have no idea what we're talking about.
Right. Well, and let me interject this too, Ed. My experience with Texas A&M Kingsville, I had a problem with a former president of Del Mar College who went down there as a faculty member. And I inquired through Public Information Act requests from A&M Kingsville some extensive records. And they didn't take the 10 days to get it back to me. They wrote me back and said, we have assembled these documents, and please come down here and sit down, and you can take a look at them, you can photograph them, we can make copies or whatever you want to do. So I don't have any problem with A&M Kingsville when they say they had extensively looked into this request and they can find no documents.
And that's the kind of reaction you'd expect from somebody that wasn't hiding any information.
Right.
Now, $27 million, that's what I expect, and that's the reaction I expect from somebody that is hiding information.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want me to have these records.
No.
And I don't know why.
Well, I can tell you why. It's what what you've uncovered so far.
Doctor, that was the tip of an iceberg.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
We spent 2 hours in there and found that.
Right.
We don't know what else exists, because obviously we're not getting the information. We know how to research it, but the information has to be available before we can look at it.
Right. Well, I've been doing Public Information Act requests at Del Mar College for 15 years, maybe even further back than that, out of my 25-year history. And this has probably been the most horrifying that I've seen. Now, in addition to what Mr. Bennett here got with that $27 million, I have been trying to get information on the update of what I got for nothing, the 5 feet of unredacted and so forth, write-offs and so forth. And I asked for 1 year, and now they say that in order to redact what has to be redacted, which they didn't do for the 10 years prior to that, then they're going to charge me $650 for that.
Something changed.
I don't know. It certainly has. I mean, it's not, I don't know. I don't know why, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Now, speaking of fiduciary responsibility, they have a responsibility to collect this bad debt.
That's right.
If they can.
Mm-hmm.
And the memo that Dr. Stone wrote to Dr. Escamilla said that they've made all efforts to collect it.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we saw those third-party bad debts, and they were all viable entities, I'm wondering what efforts were actually made. So I sent in another PIA request.
Mm-hmm.
It was for all lawsuits filed by the college to collect accounts receivable since 2003, January 2003. And here's my response.
Okay.
No documents.
No.
So that means they haven't filed one lawsuit to collect an accounts receivable since 2003, January 1, 2003.
Right. Yet in one instance, they wrote off $189,000 or $185,000. That included the $54,000 to Kingsville and the $89,000 to the Coastal Bend Council of Governments, plus others.
Other viable entities.
You know, CCAT,
Spawn.
Driscoll. Yeah.
Right.
We can
names
do
that everybody recognizes.
Right.
So what is their definition of all reasonable efforts, or all efforts to collect it have been exhausted? There have been no lawsuits. I've been in business a long time.
Mhm.
Somebody owes you money, they either pay you or you file a lawsuit.
Right.
That's the way it works.
Mhm. And when you file that, you usually send to the perpetrator or whatever a certified return receipt letter, so that someone has to sign what we call the green card, which is a return receipt, and then that is returned back to the sender.
And they had no green cards.
No,
There were none. You asked for them, there were none in the 5-foot stack.
point blank, I asked for them.
So, somebody owed them $185,000, they wrote it off, they filed no lawsuits.
Not that we can.
Well, they
there's no
said they filed
evidence.
none.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they confirmed it. And Tammy's real good about confirming things
I mean,
and billing for things.
I mean,
But I'm still stunned by the 27 million. Just to clarify, I won't be paying that. I think we've got some issues here.
we've got some big issues here.
And, yeah, maybe it will take them that long. And that may show you where the efficiency problem is in the administrative department over there. And it took me 17 minutes to run a comparable printout on a client that has more activity. It's going to take them
1,000,000 hours.
500 man years. Now, there's a lot of redacting they say they have to do on third-party receivables, third-party bad debts, which I'm still confused about.
Yeah, well, there shouldn't be any, what they do is they go with FERPA laws with the students. And, you know, you have to be real careful that you do redact social security numbers, credit card numbers, and pertinent information may even be down to addresses and telephone numbers. However, but if they have not gone to any extent to try to collect that money, which apparently they have not done, then that's a gross disservice to the taxpayers of the Delmar College District.
And that brings up another fact that we need to look at. The administrative cost. They didn't file any lawsuits. That's our money.
Right.
That ultimately went into the expense of the college. They didn't get the revenue in, they lost the money. In 2011, Delmar, for the full-time equivalent student, it cost $12,857 for a Delmar full-time equivalent. Now, you compare that to the national average. National average at that time, 2011, was $9,550. So it's about a third more to get through Delmar. Now, my concern is, first of all, why does it cost so much? Are we at Delmar paying our professors that much more?
No.
Okay, I don't think it's on the professor side. So the only reason a college exists is to educate students.
Right.
So if you're not paying, the professors, we've had some very good professors. It looks as if we're losing our focus on tenure track, master's degree, PhD, terminal degree people, and we're moving more towards the full-time temporary employees, the adjunct professors.
Right.
And if we're doing that to save money, which appears to be what they're doing, why are we not saving money? We're a third more expensive to the taxpayers. We're the ones footing the bill.
Right.
Okay. It costs a third more to get through Delmar than it does the national average. And that's in 2011. Yet, we're moving away from paying the higher price tenured, PhD, long-term professors, dedicated people. We're moving away from that, and we're hiring cheaper help there, yet our expenses are still exceeding the national average.
Right.
That tells me it's not in the teaching. Our expenses are not in the teaching, so it must be in administration, in air conditioning the buildings, paying the electricity, advertising. We have $1 million a year in advertising. I've looked at other comparably sized schools. They don't have that. They have a fraction of that. Why is that? We're spending $1 million a year on advertising, and until this year, since 2010, it's declined 14%. Now, I think it may have jumped up a little bit this year, but we don't have the final figures, and we have to allocate it between the real students, the college students, and the dual credit people. But I'm confused as to why we're paying less for professors, and our costs are still exceeding the national average by 30 or 33%.
Right. Well, I think the Wall Street Journal summed that up the best when they said that's administrative bloat. Every time I go online, we do get the internal emails from Del Mar College, and they've got a new position open for this and a position open for that, and mostly what they are is we increase salaries, not through raises, which we didn't get for several years, but you create these new designations. Instead of a director of human resources, now they're the executive director of human resources. So, and with that increase in responsibilities and title, then that means they make more money. And then they turn right around when they take the director of human resources and bump them up to the executive director of human resources. Then they hire another director of human resources. They just did that here recently.
Now, it seems like a lot of layers for not a lot of employees.
Right.
And again, if you have the tenure track professors, you're not going to have the turnover, so there's not going to be all that much hiring of the professors. And that's the only reason the college exists.
Right. And then, another thing that I think should never in this world have happened, in order to save money, Del Mar College indicated that if we can go ahead and give an incentive to the older faculty members, the tenure track faculty members, and have them retire with, let's say, an equivalent amount of money to their 9-month basic, their base salary, just give them that bonus, and then hire other people in, then they can save money in the long run. Okay? Now, the problem I see with that is you're incentivizing getting rid of the really true seasoned faculty members with this ploy, and then you go ahead and say you're going to hire new tenure track faculty members, and I've got it under good authority, and I've got the records. They're not doing it. They'll go and hire adjuncts for a third of what it costs for a regular faculty member.
Doctor, that's not where we should be saving the money.
No.
And I'm a taxpayer. It's my money.
That's right.
I want it spent on professors.
Yeah.
I do not want it spent on a dynasty of administrators, particularly if they're not qualified.
Right.
If you have a CFO that doesn't have an accounting course, I call that unqualified.
Well, that's more than qualified. That's a travesty as far as I'm concerned. Now, another thing that just came up in the newspaper in the last week, I think today is a Friday. It was this past Wednesday, about 48 hours ago, that the Del Mar College president had a 3% raise, which brought him from a base salary of $221,000 roughly to $228,000 per year. Now, a year ago, or 18 months ago, he went from $200,000 to $221,600. So he got a raise of roughly 10% or a little bit better, when none of the rest of the faculty members or employees at Del Mar College got anything. Okay. Then now, what the Board of Regents does is institutes what they call a performance bonus check. And to my knowledge right now, the president has received 3 of those. which is $45,000 in about 2 or 2.5 years.
Now, Doctor, I read their internal accounting data in their annual report, and it said that enrollment has declined from 2010.
Right.
Okay, what's that performance bonus based on if we're losing students?
Well, I think what the Board of Regents does, and this is why I want to change that board desperately. I think what the Board of Regents members think is that since the man is out in the public making friends with the real estate cartel and the local business people, okay, and then formulating these bond elections for preposterous amounts of money, okay, and then to fix up the campus because of deferred maintenance, which is not what you need to ask the taxpayers to do, okay? Then I guess since he's got all these big plans and pie in the sky, and they bought this 95 acres out here at Rodfield in Yorktown to build a third campus, which they backed off on. But maybe that's what the Board of Regents members feel is a real performance, to go out here and ask for more money and schmooze the taxpayers into buying more and more stuff they don't need.
You see, it used to be that Del Mar would compete with the Island and Kingsville, because those were the only colleges in town.
Right.
Now, and they've all got nice physical facilities. Now they have to compete with the online universities. So people have a choice. They don't have to go to Del Mar, and I think that the enrollment's reflecting that. They've got a choice, and we have to compete. Del Mar has to compete with the online universities somehow if they're not going to lose their students.
Right.
Now, are they going to expand their enrollment to the point that we need another campus? How can they do that with the trend going down? At what point do we really need another campus? And do we need to float $250 million in bonds to get it?
No. No, here's what I see happening. When I first got here, we had a pretty high enrollment rate. Most of the students were on-campus students. Okay, they weren't taking online courses through Del Mar or anyplace else. And they were bona fide people looking for degrees and certificates and stuff in what I call the real world. Now what's happened is the enrollment now includes about 14 to 15% of dual credit students, which are taught by high school teachers off campus, so that we do not have that population of students on campus like we used to have.
Okay, so that means you're, even with an increase in enrollment, which we appear to have this semester,
Yeah, 200.
You may still have a decrease in students coming to the campus.
That's true. Yes.
So I heard an interview on TV where they indicated that Del Mar was bursting at the seams. And my thought was, you've got to grow before you burst at the seams, yet
Right.
Del Mar is able to burst on the decline.
Right.
As they lose enrollment, they're bursting at the seams. And that kind of logic didn't make any sense to me, as a lot of this logic in the bad debts, bad debts going up while enrollment goes down, and deferred maintenance. Now, if you don't change your oil in your car for the first 80,000 miles, you'll be changing your engine.
That's right.
It's really expensive. That didn't make any sense to me. And the purchase of land for a little under $7 million, it seems to me that $7 million could have been used to fix that building that's kind of crumbling over there. And we wouldn't have to float a bond issue to repair things that should have been taken care of years or decades ago.
Right. Well, it just has declined as far as efficiency goes. So here's what we've got as far as enrollment. We've got a decreased number of students that are actually on campus, either east or west, or now they've got the Northwest Center, what the South Campus they call it, which is the Economic Development Center. Okay? So if we're bursting at the seams and those numbers on East and West Campus are declining, then something just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, and that's why I want to have interview you so that you can tell the folks out there what you would be aware of, and not just sit there and eat a free lunch at the Board of Regents meetings and pay attention to what's going on. And obviously you have, if they're afraid of $27 million to give you the information.
And I'm wondering if, as a board member, they have access to that information, because somebody needs to be looking at that. I've sat in that boardroom for basically the last year. I've not missed many meetings, and I have not heard one penetrating question from any board member about anything. And these reports are given to them, they thank them, and they sit down. There are no penetrating questions. And I'll tell you, I'm sitting in the back saying, that doesn't make any sense. And am I the only one thinking that? Somebody needs to be asking questions, somebody needs to be investigating it. We go through the board agenda every month and they print out all the checks. There aren't that many checks. There just aren't that many checks. There's not that much activity. Most of the activity in accounting over there apparently is payroll. And that makes sense for a college. So the majority of it's payroll, and the accounts payable for vendors is very limited. Maybe 4 pages. And it's just not much. And the big one's the custodial service is the big one.
Don't get me started with custodial. Now, one thing that has disturbed me is there are some board members currently on Del Mar College Board of Regents that profess that they are all for the different ethnic groups in the community. Okay? Now, we had some of the best custodial services, custodial people over there for years. That place was spotless. And they come in the morning, they were members of the community ed, and they worked hard, they took pride in what they did, and they were there to service the taxpayers and the students of Del Mar College. Then, through this current administration, somebody came up with the ideas that we're going to save a whole bunch of money if we just fire all these people, both the groundskeepers and the custodians, and then contract out through an Ohio company to come in here and contract for those services. The service went straight to hell in the handbasket. I hate to say that word on the thing, but it did, folks. I mean, it's abysmal over there. You walk into the Johns and they smell bad, and things are not being cleaned, and the people that do clean, bless their hearts, they're minimum wage earners at 19 hours a week. And what kind of service are they going to give? And they're not trained to do anything. They don't know what chemicals they're using. They don't know anything. And that is counter to the meeting that I attended when this company, it's called GCA Custodial Services out of Ohio, came in and preached that they were going to train everybody so that they could clean to hospital standards.
See, a couple of things bother me about that. First of all, I was talking with a former employee this morning, and he said that they were told before that transition occurred that the college was spending $500,000 a year on custodial services,
Right.
and they were going to save money because that was too much. And we know for a fact they're spending $82,000 approximately every month. Plus some groundskeeping, which is $13,000.
Well, that's 13. So we're looking at just close to what?
95.
Yeah, $95,000 per month, folks. So the same service that they admitted we were getting for $500,000.
We're spending $95,000. That's well over $1 million a year.
Oh, yeah.
Well over $1 million. And this guy was told they were spending $500,000 and it was too much. The only way that I know to save money is to spend less than what you're already spending.
Yeah, well, I've always said that that's Del Mar College mathematics. I remember when a person who was a vice president of instruction got all over me and said that some of my coworkers were upset that I was teaching classes as an adjunct. Any of my overloads are an adjunct pay. They're not full-time. So let's say that I've got my full-time load at a certain base salary, and then if I taught an overload class, I got a third of what that was worth per class to do that. And I was told I was getting rich by teaching 2 overload classes per semester.
That makes as much sense as my $27 million estimate here.
Just thought I'd throw that out for you guys to see the pain and agony that we have to go through.
But then you're spending somewhat more than what you were, maybe twice as much. We don't know. We obviously can't get any records.
No.
Right? You talk
Not
about
cheaply, anyway.
You talk about extremely difficult to get records. This is extremely difficult, and it's intentional.
Well, I think extremely difficult this past week or so. Ed has gone over to impossible.
They don't want to release them. Now, we want the records for the custodial salaries before they were laid off. I guess they called it laid off. They flat fired them.
Well, fired him.
Those loyal employees that have been fired, we want to see what they were. We don't care individually what they made. We want to know what, as a group, they were paid.
Collectively, yeah.
And we're looking at the $1 million a year, seeing worse service, and wondering where the savings is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if those 5 people, I don't know how many custodians they had before.
Well, we had 1 in our building.
Okay.
Now we've got 2.
Okay. So.
And they don't get, I mean, when we had a custodian that worked there for many years in old Del Mar College, but he wound up with our group because of the lab safety. That's another big issue. I don't want a custodian in my lab and a microbiology lab with chemicals and living organisms messing around if they can't spell, microbe.
Well, let me tell you, because we're the second most illiterate city in America, these folks probably can't spell it.
No. Okay, so I could eat off the floors even in the laboratory with that custodian. He was a couple of weeks shy, full of being able to retire with his pension, whatever they call it, and they just got rid of it. 2 weeks, Ed. That's about as cutthroat as you can get.
That's close to criminal. That's just horrible. And then, are we saving money as a result?
No.
I'm guessing we're not, but it's just a guess because we can't get the records.
Well, I'm going to ferret them out. I'll guarantee you that.
Well, they'll give me mine, but they want my $27 million before they release
they
it.
maybe want $50 million for mine, but
Maybe we can float a bond issue.
well, if I hit the lottery, maybe I can afford it.
Let's get with Trey and do a bond issue.
There you go. Yeah, bond issue. All right. Well, there's another problem we have that I want to address. Okay. Now, there have been some severe problems with some of the departments at Del Mar College, and I know you've been directly involved. And somebody's going to say that this is vindictive on your part to run for the board, which is bovine excrement. I'll go ahead and use that term. Now, the problem I find is we have an attorney who is the bona fide, certifiable attorney for the Del Mar College Board of Regents, which you would be in. He would be your quote attorney if and when you win that election. Okay. Now, he was billing the college a good bit of money, about 5 figures a month, and through his firm. And when you went into his billing records, you could say, okay, we spent 0.5 hours discussing this with Professor Smith on the complaint by Mrs. Jones and so forth and so on. And
Very
detailed billing. Okay. Now, when I started asking for some of those billings, because I'm real concerned about how much money is going to cover up a problem that we had with the Texas Board of Nursing. I'll leave it at that, okay? Then this attorney, Mr. Augustin Rivera, I'm just going to, junior, he's running for district judgeship around here. He quit billing on November 26th of 2013. Now, we recently got some information that I'd asked for through a Public Information Act request for the billings for the Gray's Daughtry and so forth company that Delmar hires, and why out of town, folks? Okay.
Oh,
They're
the
out of
Austin law firm,
The Austin law
at
firm.
very reasonable rates.
Yeah, $400 or $500 an hour.
Mhm.
Okay? Now, I asked for that billing, and here's what I got. It was my Public Information Act request, okay? And this billing happened on May the 27th, 2014. No, excuse me, it was April 28th. It was a phone call, and let me read what they put in the billing records. It says, discussion with, and I'm not going to tell the faculty member of the nursing department that was specifically named, I'll just say unnamed person, regarding pendency of nursing board investigation, comma, likely future steps and obligations to notify others of pending investigations. Okay? Now, what we've had is we have a department out there that is in, I think, probably a little bit of problem with the Board of Nursing, and all I can tell is that between Mr. Rivera and some of these obscure billings that we have from attorneys, and we're looking at what, at least $500,000 or better a year in attorney's fees.
Well, they budget somewhere like 350,000, but if
What
you've
we've
got,
seen.
if you've got a primary attorney that's not sending any bills,
Yeah,
how do you know?
right. Okay, so my question is, and then this was done at $395 per hour, and then Augie Rivera received a signed copy from, from the firm, and then it was signed off to pay that bill. They reduced it. Now, I don't know how they get a discount.
They negotiated that,
Okay.
that $400 an hour,
Yeah.
and that's not the highest fee we've seen
No,
from that law
I've
firm.
seen 28,000.
But the fee per hour, some of them charge, I believe, in the area of $450.
$4 to $450.
Yeah. So this was probably not a bargain.
Well, I'm just real concerned about that one item that we got, okay? So I'm just gonna throw this out and ask you, as a Board of Regents member, if we were having troubles with the Board of Nursing, and it depended on whether our nursing department survived or not, do you think that the president and the CFO and the human resources people should be informing board members of that, and the board members should be informing taxpayers?
They have a fiduciary responsibility. They are our elected representatives. Whatever they know that's not confidential, we should know as well. If there's a contingent problem there with the Board of Nursing that may end up in costing the college hundreds or millions of dollars, we should be aware of it. If there's nothing going on, then why are we paying all these bills?
Well, I go back to what I was involved with at one time, and that was, we had the head of human resources, the EEOC officer and so forth, and she was investigating one of the administrators over some accusations that were made, and that president, I guess with I hope he had the blessings of the Board of Regents members. I really don't think he did. He fired that woman, okay? And I can still see vividly on the front of the newspaper from Delmar College, it's called the Foghorn. They had $450,000 settlement as a byline, and then they had a little picture of the then president. And then it's my understanding they came back for another, or she was able to come back for another $150,000, which would have put her settlement up at $600,000, and then also Delmar College and the insurance company paid her attorneys off. So we're looking at probably $1 million.
Problem. Okay. Now,
Do we want to go through that again?
it costs a third more to get a student through Delmar over the average U.S. community college.
Right.
And this is why. It doesn't take many of those. We've got an $80 million, approximately an $80 million budget.
Right.
How much of that's waste?
Well, I was
What you just described is waste.
Okay. Well, there was a professor, math professor, and Del Mar College, in their infinite wisdom, this was the administration, allowed students to go in and other people to photograph his desk and so forth. Students were mad that they didn't do well in a calculus class, and it was his fault because he was foreign and he had a little bit of an accent. But bottom line, they cut a check to him for $225,000, and he left. And I've heard of other lesser amounts over there.
That's our money. That's what we hire the college administration to prevent. Right?
But if you're not there, you're sitting on your back at Starbucks drinking coffee and sleeping, then I'm going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen.
It's terribly upsetting. We have the second highest tax rate for any community college in Texas.
It's true, yeah.
Our enrollment's declining. There were rumors about watering down some of the programs, so that would make the diploma worth less.
Right.
These numbers don't work. Why the high tax rate? Why does it cost a third more than the national average to get a student through? And why is the enrollment declining? And then, why would we ever need another campus?
Well, I can't answer that. I guess it's because we have a CFO that said that within 6 years in 2020, we're going to have 900,000 residents in Nueces County.
I need to buy some farmland out south then, because it's going to be real valuable.
Yeah, it's going to be.
And that'd be a better investment than paying Tammy the $27 million.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure that, being one of the local taxpayers and a man that works in the trenches every day, that you've got a spare $27 million sitting around that you.
I can always write a check for it.
Wow. Well, let me just say, I don't know how we're doing time-wise, but let me just.
10 more minutes.
Okay, let me just ask you to do the following. And I know that 10 minutes is probably not quite enough time, but would you please share with the people here, since this is information about your candidacy for the Del Mar College Board of Regents at large, would you please just sum up what Ed Bennett would do to try to straighten out the problems that we've mentioned at Del Mar College?
And I think Del Mar needs a lot of help. We've got a town that is the second most illiterate in America. CCISD has apparently a 30% dropout rate. The literacy rate of the graduates is not up to standards, because at the last board meeting they were talking about more remedial courses. So somebody, and it's essential, somebody's got to teach these people how to read. As an example, without a high school diploma, if you're 60 to 64 years old, your average salary is $27,000 bucks. With an associate's degree, it's $48,000.
Right.
Okay, you can live on $48,000.
Yeah.
People can live on that. People can't live on $27,000.
Right.
So that means we're going to have to subsidize those people with food stamps, some sort of welfare. They cannot make a living out there. So it's essential for us to have a good university or a good community college that will make up the deficit that has been created by graduating students that can't read. In addition to that, we should have a strong community college. We're paying for it. We're already paying a third more than the average U.S. college. So we should have a strong college. That strong college is defined by the professors. It's not defined by the good administration. Nobody cares about the administration. They should just be administering, issuing checks, balancing the books, filing reports. The teachers are what make the college. And the teachers should have academic freedom. They should be able to exercise the shared governance. That's part of being a professor. The tenure track professors, they need to be there. The tender track was originally developed because of academic freedom. It was a source of academic freedom. And we need that. We need to attract good professors. We don't need to save our money in hiring lesser qualified people. It's nice that they want to teach. Let's hire the ones that are already qualified to teach and will become part of the community. Somebody that's going to be there for years. Jerry, you've been there for 25 years. That's what we want. Somebody that's got a PhD in the field, a master's degree, they're tenure track, they're focused only on that. They're not going down to the ship channel and working during the day and then coming here and teaching at night. This is not a place for part-time professors. It's a nice thing to do when you have somewhere like Houston, you've got NASA there, and those people have PhDs and they want to teach part-time. That makes sense. Here, we need to attract the PhDs, the masters where you don't have PhDs, the terminal degrees. The school has to be firmed up so that it's addressing what the city needs. The city doesn't need more empty facilities. It doesn't need to we don't need to raise the taxes to maintain an administrative dynasty over there for anybody. Again, Harvard's known for their professors. Nobody knows about any of the administrators over Harvard. They take care of their work, and that's great. That's what they were trained to do. It's a not-for-profit. We don't need to build dynasties. There aren't that many employees. We don't need to be advertising $1 million a year. Why should we be 3 times the average in advertising? That doesn't make any sense to me. And when you look at the declining enrollment, it doesn't appear to be working either.
No. No. Well, how many people in Nueces County, Texas, including Corpus Christi, and include the north of us here? We've got San Pat, Aransas, Refugio counties. How many residents truly do not know that we have Del Mar College in the neighborhood?
And they all know it. Now you're very seldom going to get anybody from outside the area to come in because they've got to pay a higher tuition rate.
Right.
So your advertising is focused here on the people that already know it. That's preaching to the choir. They're already totally aware of it. And do we need the $1 million? We need to keep the $1 million at Del Mar, shift it over to teaching, hire more qualified people, treat them better so that they stay. We don't want to be running off people like Dr. Olson. You get a man with that sort of integrity, a colonel in the Army, a PhD in history, you want to keep him.
And then they get crossways and stuff. That's what amazes me. I'll just say it so you'll know. Well, you already know as a prospective Board of Regents members. Why I'm not going. It just baffles me that happened. Well, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. I think that you had said something a minute ago that triggered it in me that I say on my TV shows all the time. This administration that is bloated at Del Mar College, the only purpose that an administrator and an administrator has at Del Mar College working for the taxpayers is to provide the faculty members, me, with what I need to present the best education to students. That's it. That's the bottom line. I don't know your bottom line, if you want to call it. That's the only reason.
Your only product's the diplomas. Educate those kids.
That's right.
And give them, provide the education. Don't give them the grade.
Right. With a backbone. If you've got it.
When they say you gave me a C, no, you earned your C.
That's right.
Now, let them earn the A's. I was talking to a student today. She wants to work harder. She wants to excel. That's the kind of students we need, and that's what we should be providing. We shouldn't be watering it down. Nothing should be watered down. That diploma's got to be worth something when they leave.
Right.
If word around town is we can't hire Delmar people because they don't know anything, that diploma is useless.
Right. And then we get on faculty members that hold the line and do demand, the proper performance by students, and that they are chastised, and even worse than that. I won't get into that tonight.
But by the way, Doctor, that budget's a little more than $300,000 per business day, and somebody needs to really be looking at that hard. And if the administration isn't qualified to look at it hard, and I'm saying I've seen Dr. Stone's resume, and he's not qualified to be looking at this stuff. I'm sure he's trying, and he gets up there and makes a nice presentation, but somebody needs to look at it, which is what I was trying to do.
Right.
Now, as a board member, if I've got access to that information, I'm going to be working and looking at that stuff. And I think they all should be doing that now, even if they don't understand it. And I can tell you right now, some of them don't understand it.
Well, I just hope that as a board member, if you are elected to that board, that they will pay you enough money in salary to be able to afford $27 million to go out and obtain.
I believe they need a salary zero.
But you get a free lunch.
Yeah.
And I saw the bill for that too. That was about $50,000-$60,000 a year.
They do eat well.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe you can just say, no, thank you. I don't want that expensive meal. And I sure hope that you don't show up to a board meeting with Bermuda shorts and flip-flops on.
I would not. I have watched the dress code over there, and
Your shirt tail out?
I don't dress like that. I certainly don't go out in public like that. There's nothing wrong with a business suit. Most of those people are in business, and they probably have business suits.
Well, there's nothing better than to see a board member who's in charge sitting there stuffing his face with a free pizza, with his eyesore shirt out, hanging out at the top of his Bermuda shorts. I'll just leave it at that.
And they televise it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Anyway, is there anything else you'd like to add now that we're being totally honest about
Well,
what needs to be done?
what I do want to say is that has been a fine college in the past. A fine college. They've got some wonderfully staffed departments over there. The music department, I went to a presentation of the music department put on. Those people are first class. Your department's first class, history's first class. Let's make all departments first class because we're paying for it anyway.
That's right.
Let's decrease administrative expenses, sue the people that actually owe us money, if those are the people. There seems to be some confusion as to whether Kingsville owed any money or not. They don't think so. Sue the people that owe money. Let's exercise our fiduciary responsibility. Let's watch out for the taxpayers' money. If you're not going to give us the detail, then you take care of it. If you can't take care of it, then resign.
Well, I thank you for answering the questions.
Doctor, thank you so much. We'll continue this in the future.
You bet we will. We'll be back.